අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Thursday, the 1st of June 2023. Economic revival. President Ranil Wickremesinghe assures the nation that Sri Lanka's development roadmap is based on 4 key pillars and economy is gradually recovering. Easing policy measures. Central bank cuts key policy rates by 250 basis points, reflecting faster than expected slowing of inflation. Central Bank says awaiting Finance Ministry's strategy on debt restructuring. Fiscal measures. Professionals belonging to 14 categories, including doctors and lawyers, vehicle owners and individuals over 18, must register with the Inland Revenue Department.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අතිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Ndivadi Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very warm welcome. I'll take you straight to your top story tonight. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says the policy easing cycle has begun with a speedy recovery of the economy taking place as predicted by the Monetary Authority. Addressing media on the monthly monetary policy review today, the Central Bank Governor expressed hope that the banks will reduce lending rates with the easing of monetary policy. The Central Bank chief also expressed confidence of maintaining stability of the country's banking sector.
At the Monetary Policy Board meeting of the Central Bank yesterday, it was decided to reduce the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate of the Central Bank by 250 basis points to 13% and 14% respectively. The Monetary Board had reached the decision with the view of easing monetary conditions in line with the faster than expected slowing of inflation, gradual dissipation of inflationary pressures and further anchoring of inflation expectations.
What we are seeing in terms of balance of payment pressures is we are building up our reserve positions and economy also getting back to normalcy. I think as we predicted, but much earlier than a lot of the people thought, its recovery is happening fast. We thought we need to continue the recovery because we have stabilized economy, now it's a recovery process. So to support that, today is the start of the policy season cycle. We reduce our policy rate significantly by 250 basis points. I hope banks, especially one of the issues that SMEs and other lenders, the borrowers are facing, private sector, even the government, relatively high interest rates, but still in high inflation environment. We see very clearly inflation coming towards our target range much earlier than what we expected, supported by currency appreciation, adjustment in the oil and petroleum prices, global prices, all are helping favorable conditions, have helped us to bring the situation much earlier than under normal circumstances. That's why we think now it's time to relax monetary conditions. So we took this strong adjustment of policy rates. We hope that banks will transmit and bring down especially the lending rates for businesses. Those who are finding it difficult to service their loans, we know that some stresses we have seen. So that will ease the pressure, and also that will basically, hopefully, will start gradually banks expanding their loan books. Credit will be starting to flow into the business's economy. And with that, the economy will gradually recover. And also to support that, already in terms of foreign exchange situation, we relax the margin requirements already for LC margin requirements. And also, I think we are in the process of relaxing some of the foreign exchange capital account transaction controls that also will be relaxed. We already submitted proposals to the Minister of Finance, and also we are recommended to relax some of the import restrictions. Those have been relaxing gradually, but in the next phase, I think we would like to relax further to support the economic activities. We saw 3.1 billion level of reserves end of May number. I think we have already announced here. The usable reserves that includes PBOC SOP Even without that, I think we have about $1.6 billion on usable resource.
What were the steps taken by the central bank to get the country to this point where you feel that loosening of monetary rates is justified?
If you look at the IMF documents all published, our commitment is not the condition by IMF. Our commitment is to bring down inflation according to their overall macro framework, which tells us, or their indication, bring down the inflation single digit by end 2024. So that's our commitment. So we are bringing that even more than a year earlier of their targets. So that's where we are now. So we don't need to consult the IMF as long as we have delivered the KPI of our commitment. So that's where we are.
And Governor, any update on the DDO and what is happening there, and when there will be an announcement?
So that's the secretary mainly is the borough is the Minister of Finance, the Treasury. They certainly will announce what would be the strategy by the Minister of Finance soon.
About the 200 million owing to the Bangladesh bank, what's the current situation of that?
Our commitment agreement is to settle 200 million will be settled in August and September.
Economic growth rate, what is your prediction? And
in our annual report, our prediction for this year is still will be a contraction by overall annual at a -2% prediction.
From the IMF program's targets, all the central bank targets seem to have exceeded the ITs that we see in March. So
March are indicative targets,
yeah,
not for targets.
And even I think your reserve targets for June you may have exceeded by now. So, and also since many of these things are improving now, will they work on a different macro framework, and will the DSA be changed, or will they still work on the same DSA?
As I said, a review will happen after the next review. So at that point they will probably look at and revise policies and outlook. That can happen later at the review, but I don't think there's in between. Technically, IMF would not revise the outlook.
The banking sector as uncoordinated, how is the progress?
First 5 banks they have completed, and we have got the reports, and the other 4 banks also they are supposed to complete by end of July. All will be completed. We are confident that we can maintain banking system stability. So banks are in a very good shape.
Professionals belonging to 14 categories, including doctors, accountants, bankers, architects, quantity surveyors, and attorneys at law, have to be registered with the Department of Inland Revenue with effect from today. According to the latest gazette issued under the country's income tax law, those who receive monthly payments of 100 rupees or more than 1.2 million a year for providing any service within the country are also required to register with the Inland Revenue Department.
A special gazette notification was issued yesterday, making it mandatory for professionals belonging to 14 categories to register themselves with the Inland Revenue Department. The gazette was issued by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies. Accordingly, practitioners registered with the Sri Lanka Medical Council and attorneys at law of the Supreme Court are required to register themselves with the IRD with effect from today. Further, members of the Institutes of Chartered Accountants, Certified Management Accountants, Engineers, Professional Bankers, Architects and Quantity Surveyors are also entitled to the list. Meanwhile, it is also mandatory for individuals who have registered their businesses in divisional secretariats and those who are in possession of vehicles other than 3-wheelers, motorcycles and hand tractors to register themselves with the Inland Revenue Department. Further, individuals who have purchased or acquired any property in Sri Lanka by virtue of deeds transfer on or after the 1st of April in 2018 and employees whose monthly contribution from both employee and employer to any provident fund is more than 20,000 rupees are also subjected to the new provision. Additionally, any individual who obtains approval for a building plan from a local authority and those who receive payments of 100,000 per month or 1,200,000 for a 12-month period for providing any services in Sri Lanka are also required to register with the IRD. Furthermore, any individual who is aged 18 years or more by the 31st of December in 2023 or attains the age of 18 on or after the 1st of January in 2024 are also subjected to the provisions of the Gazette notification issued by President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Lanka Indian Oil Company revised fuel prices with effect from midnight yesterday. Both suppliers reduced the prices of 92-octane petrol by 15 rupees but increased 95-octane petrol by 20 rupees a litre. The prices of auto diesel remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara assures the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Lanka Indian Oil Company have adequate stocks of fuel and requests the public not to create unnecessary panic.
State fuel supplier Ceylon Petroleum Corporation revised prices of its petroleum products with effect from midnight yesterday. According to the latest price revision, the price of a litre of 92-octane petrol was reduced by 15 rupees to 318 rupees. However, the price of 95-octane petrol was increased by 20 rupees to 385 rupees. The price of a litre of Lanka Super Diesel meanwhile was increased to 10 rupees. With that, the revised price of a litre of Super Diesel is now 340 rupees. The price of Auto Diesel remains unchanged. Following the announcement of Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Lanka IOC also revised prices in line with CPC's revision. In this backdrop, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara requested the public not to create unnecessary panic of a fuel shortage, assuring that both Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Lanka IOC have sufficient fuel stocks. The minister noted that 112,769 metric tons of auto diesel, 5,739 metric tons of super diesel, 56,797 metric tons of 92-octane petrol, 2,318 metric tons of 95-octane petrol, and 42,625 metric tons of jet fuel are available with plants operated by the CPC and the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals. The minister also noted that any shortages are due to fuel station owners not placing orders for fuel anticipating a price reduction. The minister highlighted that dealers are required to maintain a minimum stock of 50% and added that he had instructed the CPC to review and suspend the license of fuel stations that had not maintained the minimum stock level. Despite the reduction of 92-octane petrol by 15 rupees, the three-wheel drivers union say they are only able to reduce fares by 1 rupee. The Lanka Private Bus Owners Association meanwhile expressed their readiness to reduce fares but demand a reduction in prices of vehicle spare parts.
ඩීසල් අඩු වුණත් මේ ජුලයි මාසේ පළවෙනිදා බස් ගාස් සමාලෝචනය වෙන්නේ. කලින් රුපියල් 5ක් අඩු වෙච්ච එකත් ඒකත් සමාලෝචනය වෙනවා මේ ජුලයි පළවෙනිදා වාර්ෂික බස් ගාස් සමාලෝචනයේදී. ඒ ජුලයි මාසේ පළවෙනිදාට අපිට ජනතාවට ලබා දෙන්න හැකියාව තියෙනවා මේ රුපියල් 15ක් අඩු වීමේ ප්‍රතිශතය ඉතිරි පියරවැන් ඩීසල් වලින් විතරක් නෙමෙයිනේ බස් ධාවනය කරන්නේ. අනිත් භාණ්ඩ සියල්ලම තාමත් මිල අඩු කරන්න කටයුතු කරලා නැහැ. මේ පිළිබඳ මාසික කාලයක් තියෙන ආණ්ඩුව මැදිහත් වුණොත් ජනතාවට මේ ප්‍රතිලාභය ජුලයි මාසේ පළවෙනිදාට ලබා දෙන්න හැකියාව තියෙනවා.
Sri Lanka requests support from China to expand exports to China, specifically the export of Ceylon cinnamon, seafood and gemstones. Sri Lankan Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena made the request during the 12th round of diplomatic consultations between Sri Lanka and China in Colombo. Visiting Chinese Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, who co-chaired the session, said there is opportunity for result-oriented cooperation with Sri Lanka in key sectors.
The 12th round of diplomatic consultations between Sri Lanka and China was co-chaired by visiting Chinese Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Sun Weidong and Sri Lankan Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena. During the consultations, discussions were held on bilateral and multilateral cooperation, people-to-people exchanges, economic and trade cooperation, the present economic recovery process, livelihood help and financial support between the two countries. The Chinese Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs emphasized that there is a potential for result-oriented cooperation with Sri Lanka. While appreciating China's assistance to Sri Lanka during the challenging period, Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena requested China's support towards expanding Sri Lanka's exports to China, specifically in the export of Ceylon cinnamon, seafood, fruits and vegetables, and gemstones. Further, she also welcomed the increasing trend of Chinese tourist arrivals to the island.
President delivers a special statement on the aspirations and roadmaps to transform Sri Lanka into a developed nation by 2048. Details after this break.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි. ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Delivering a special statement to the nation on the government's efforts over the past 9 months and Sri Lanka's economic revival roadmap, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said Sri Lanka's economy is gradually recovering from the crisis thanks to the corrective policies taken by the government and collective efforts of the people. Outlining his government's efforts to revive the country's economy, he noted the objective is to transform the country into a fully developed nation by 2048, which meant the current economic reforms would lead to decreased cost of living, improved standards of living, relief for the poor and a culture of transparency. The President encouraged the public to continue supporting the reforms agenda and promised the people a future of economic stability without hardships.
පීඩාකාරී ආර්ථිකයකින් දුක් කම්කටොළු රැසකට මුහුණ දෙමින් සිටි අප දැන් ක්‍රමයෙන් සහනදායී මට්ටමකට එළඹෙමින් ඉන්නවා. මෙම තත්ත්වය අපට උදා කර ගැනීමට පුළුවන් වුණේ පසුගිය කාලය තුල අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කර නිවැරදි පිළිවෙත් නිසායි. මාතෘ භූමිය වෙනුවෙන් මේ දුෂ්කරතා විඳදරාගත් ඔබ සැමටම මගේ කෘතඥතාවය පිරිනැමෙන්නට මම කැමැතියි. අපේ ඉදිරි ගමන සාර්ථක ගැනීම සඳහා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ආර්ථිකයේ සහ සමාජයේ පරිපූර්ණ පරිවර්තනයක් සිදු කළ යුතු බව මම මීට කලින් අවස්ථා ගණනාවකදී අවධානය කරා. 2023 අයවැය මගින් මෙම ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ ප්‍රතිසංවිධාන සහ නවීකරණ පිළිබඳ මම කරුණු සඳහන් කළා. මෙහිදී අප ගන්නා තීන්දුව දුෂ්කර මෙන්ම වේදනාකාරී වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ජනප්‍රිය නොවන්ට පුළුවන්. නමුත් අපේ රට යලිත් ඉහළට ඔසවා තබන්නට අපට හැකිවන්නේ මේ දුෂ්කර මාර්ගයේ නිවැරදි ප්‍රතිපත්තිය අනුව ඉදිරියට ගියොත් පමණයි. බංකොලොත් රටක් යලි ගොඩනැගීමේ පැරණි සම්ප්‍රදායික ක්‍රමවේද වලින් සිදු කළ නොහැකි. අපි අලුතින් සිතා අලුත් ගමනක් ආරම්භ කළ යුතු වෙනවා. අපේ අනාගතය අප ගොඩනගවන්නේ ප්‍රධාන කුළුණු 4ක් මතයි. පළවෙනි කුළුණ රාජ්‍ය මූල්‍ය හා ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ. අනවශ්‍ය වියදම් තවදුරටත් අඩු කිරීමට අප පියවර ගන්නවා. හැකි සෑම අවස්ථාවකදීම රජයේ වියදම් උපරිමයෙන්ම සීමා කළ යුතු බව අප නිලධාරීන්ට දැනුම් දී තිබෙනවා. දෙවැනි කුළුණ ආයෝජන ප්‍රවර්ධනය. රටක ආර්ථිකය ඉහළ නැංවීම සඳහා ආයෝජන ප්‍රවර්ධනය අතිශය වැදගත් සාධකයක්. ආයෝජකයන්ට ආකර්ශනීය රටක් නිර්මාණය කරනවා. තුන්වෙනි කුළුණ සමාජ ආරක්ෂණ ජාලය. හතරවැනි කුළුණ රාජ්‍ය ව්‍යවසාය ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ. සා මේවා සාර්ථක ගැනීමට අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ හා ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීම අප නොපමාව කළ යුතුයි. ඉදිරි අවුරුදු 5 තුල අපි ආර්ථිකය පූර්ණ වශයෙන් ස්ථාවර කරනවා. ඊළඟ අවුරුදු 25 තුල ඉහළ ආදායම් ලබන දියුණු රටක් බවට පත් වෙනවා. ඒ තමයි අපේ අරමුණ.
Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Dr. Robert Floyd, who arrived in Sri Lanka yesterday, held talks with President Ranil Wickremesinghe this morning. During their discussion, the head of state reaffirmed Sri Lanka's dedication to the peaceful utilization of nuclear energy. Dr. Floyd's 5-day official visit in the island aims at promoting the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Sri Lanka signed the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty on October 24th of 1996 and a facility agreement with the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization in June 2000. That led to the establishment of an auxiliary seismological station in Pallekele in Kandy as part of the international monitoring system to verify compliance with the CTBT. The key objective of the CTBT is to ban nuclear explosions by everyone, everywhere, and above ground, underwater, and underground. The visit is expected to further strengthen cooperation between Sri Lanka and the Nuclear Energy Centre. Well, taking you to the Colombo Stock Exchange, shares closed higher today, aided by gains in industrial and financial stocks. The CSE All-Share Price Index settled up 1.59% to end at 8,691.61 points, extending gains for a second straight session. Sri Lanka Telecom PLC and Expo Lanka Holdings PLC were the top gainers on the index, jumping 6.48% and 3.01% respectively. Trading volume of the CSE All-Share Price Index rose to 46.8 million shares from 33.9 million in the previous session. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 index rose 2.02% to settle at 2,470.42. The market's turnover rose to 1.34 billion rupees from 348.9 billion in the previous session. Capital goods sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while food, beverage and tobacco sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 21.4 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers purchasing shares worth 1.33 billion rupees during today's session. And here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. I'm Indivadi Amuwatta. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.